In the world of action films, there are iconic characters who captivate audiences with their physical strength and sharp wit, always having a super clever one-liner locked and loaded.
Dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Arnold Schwarzenegger starring as Dutch in Predator, Gibson and Glover as Riggs and Murtaugh in Lethal Weapon, or Stallone as John Rambo in First Blood. Today, we'll be taking a look at a different Stallone film, 1986's Cobra, and his portrayal of Lieutenant Marion "Cobra" Cobretti, a member of an elite LAPD division known as the Zombie Squad. Most viewers of Cobra will simply watch and enjoy it for what it is, an 80s movie with a far-fetched plot and Cobretti dropping some one-liners after he takes down a bad guy.
I'm a hero of the new world!
You're a disease, and I'm the cure.
Die!
Whoa, that was crazy. You're a disease, and I'm the cure. Good one, Cobretti. Whatever. Let's get into this. Come on. An axe-wielding cult of weirdos doing aerobics in like what? A sewer? Oh, it's a swimming pool. What is this? Like an old hotel? Maybe it's an abandoned YMCA. It looks like they're exercising. But why are they doing aerobics? Seriously, what is this? Aside from the weird cult being the major antagonist in the film, there's actually a much more interesting, deeper plot point hidden within the story. Although many overlook this even after seeing Cobra multiple times, there are several subtle hints and clues throughout the film that lead us to this intriguing, often overlooked fact. Marion Cobretti cannot read. But he's reading right there. No, he's not. It's a drawing, not a word on that page. Every single time we see him turning pages, it's a picture book. He cannot read. Our first clue is quite subtle and comes from an inconspicuous scene. Upon approaching his apartment, Cobretti is seen staring at a newspaper, although it's quite obvious he isn't reading. Perhaps he does this as a ruse to keep neighbors believing that he has the ability to read. It's entirely possible that he simply wants to trick any strangers who may see him to advertise to them, "Hey, I can read." Although the exact motivations for Cobretti feigning the ability to read are unclear in this situation, one thing is crystal clear. He can't read at all. Upon reaching the relative privacy of his patio, he places the newspaper inside his grill, displaying a complete lack of interest in reading it, because he cannot. To a non-reader, or an illiterate individual, a newspaper is nothing more than something to fire up the barbecue with. This seemingly mundane action takes on a deeper meaning when we consider the significance of the newspaper as a source of information. In a world where newspapers often hold critical clues and vital information, Cobretti's disregard for the printed word suggests a potential blind spot in his investigative abilities. Throughout the film, we see Cobretti's illiteracy forcing him to rely heavily on visual cues rather than written information. Since he's never had his face buried in books, his keen eye for details and visual awareness have become his primary tools for navigating the streets of Los Angeles. We see him intensely observing people, situations, and objects, extracting valuable information without ever needing to read a single word. Cobretti's reliance on visual cues showcases his resourcefulness in compensating for his inability to read. By honing his observational skills, he becomes a master at deciphering the world around him, relying on subtle gestures, body language, and visual details to piece together the puzzle, rather than some stupid fucking police report. Take note of Cobretti's communication style throughout the film. He often speaks in simple and straightforward sentences, avoiding complex vocabulary or intricate language. This choice of language is because he sucks at reading, so he doesn't really do big words. One could assume that the amount of television watched by Cobretti would have assisted in building his vocabulary somewhat, but one would be wrong. Look, all I'm getting at is this. Marion Cobretti is clearly one of those guys who gets irrationally angry when subtitles are turned on. Despite the intensity of his job, Cobretti lacks any personal written notes or documentation related to his cases. We never see him jot down ideas, observations, or reminders. Not even once. This absence of written records further proves the fact that Cobretti relies on his memory and visual recall exclusively because reading is impossible for him. This is one of the most telling clues that proves he can't read, because he's a cop and cops are constantly writing stuff. Parking tickets, speeding tickets, summons for my 7th DUI on a motorcycle. Seriously, find me a cop who doesn't have pens and notepads stuck all over his Kevlar vest. You won't be able to, because they don't exist. The evidence we've examined proves that Marion Cobretti is most definitely illiterate. And honestly, this is probably for the best, since the arbiters of taste over at Rotten Tomatoes have pretty much all agreed that the film Cobra sucks dick. Jeez. Jeez. Aw, man. Close your eyes. Don't look at what they wrote, Cobra. Just kidding. Look all you want. You can't read, remember? We know you can't read. I guess that is the bright side. The inability to read means our man won't have to be subjected to the awful things those bozos had to say about him. Silver linings and all that, huh?
Your history. You won't do it, pig.
It's Cobretti.
Pig.
It's Cobretti.
Pig.
Dude, his name is Marion. Ouch. That's gotta hurt.